Kavon Looney is the best rebounder in the game of basketball, as this man can navigate the baseline, time his jump, line up the angle of the ball coming off the backboard, like no other board-getting specimen in the association. Meanwhile, after eliminating the team with the best offensive rating of all time in the Sacramento Kings, the Dubs season has become like an emotional roller coaster filled with plot twists one after the next. From the punch to the stomp to Wiggs returning just in time for the playoffs, to the emotional ride it's been for Poole, to finishing 11-30 on the road, to finishing 6th in the West, to shipping off James Wiseman for Gary Payton, to bringing in Ty Jerome for Mac McClung, to going down 0-2 to Sacktown before miraculously winning 4 of the next 5. After all that drama, the Dubs find themselves with home court advantage in the second round of the playoffs.
Well, well, well. How the turntables...
On the verge of what should be an all-time thriller with LeBron Ramon James Sr., here's how Wardell Stephen Curry II and his feisty bunch of dubs, who found a rhythmically flowing chemistry at just the right time, crushed the Kings' spirit and have turned the tables. Before that, just 15.2% of you watching are subscribed, so please subscribe. Also splash thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and follow at DFlowHoops on Instagram and Twitter for a follow back. So, in case you were living under a rock, Steph just converted this fan, who was prepping for a 4-0 Sacramento sweep, from Kings Nation to Dub Nation, based off this picture. More clips of Steph's masterclass, in addition to a breakdown of his leadership, among other facts, are coming up. But for specifically a Steph breakdown, click the top right of your screen to watch yesterday's upload. Firstly, let's give some massive credit to De'Aaron Fox and company for making this an all-time first-round series. While it was Steph who ultimately lit the last beam, if you're a Sacramento fan, there's ultimately nothing for you to be ashamed of. Your team had the highest offensive rating in NBA history during the regular season, ended the longest playoff drought in North American major sports history. Mike Brown won Coach of the Year, De'Aaron was Clutch Player of the Year, not to mention, these guys pushed the defending champs to 7 games, so hats off to Sacktown. De'Aaron's classiness showed itself in defeat, as it was great to see Foxy embrace Draymond and Curry like he did, and vice versa. What an inspirational effort it was from the Kings, and aside from the 4-0 troll fan, in all seriousness, Kings fans displayed legit classiness by sticking around and coming with the Sacramento chants late in the game. This team showed out on the biggest stage, so kudos to every player, coaching staff member, fan, and front office member in Sacramento. As Draymond said post-game, this won't be the last time the Dubs will see the Kings. I'll add, this won't be the last time any top contender will see the young Kings. But the Dubs ultimately pulled through, as they seemingly always do. So before previewing their series with the Lakers in a video I'll upload tomorrow, let's go over what led to their closeout win and overall late series domination to win 4 of the last 5 in this 7-game tilt, aside from purely the chef. If you've played basketball at a high level, or any level for that matter, especially if you're undersized and or have played on an undersized team, then you know there's always that one big locomotive in the middle on the other team who no one's physically capable of holding down. L.A.L and Kavon Looney are both from the 2015 draft class. They both played each other in college when Loon was at UCLA and L.A.L was a Kentucky Wildcat, meeting up again in the Western Conference quarterfinals between Sacramento and Golden State, saw Looney and L.A.L resume their battles on the glass from the NCAA. But Draymond, would provide a story about how Loon would crush Trey's spirit, in addition to all around the King's spirit throughout this series. Here was DG.
I said in film yesterday, I said, man, L.A.L's been punking us, man. L.A.L's been punking everybody. He punked me, he punked Loon. And Loon said after the film, he came up to me, he said, man, L.A.L's ain't punked me, man. Don't be throwing that on my resume. I said, listen, Loon, show me then. Loon got a couple of them rebounds in the second half. He said, ain't nobody punking me. I said, yeah, Toon. His offensive rebounds broke their spirit. You could see it. With every single one of them, as he got them, their spirit just broke a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. And then Kavon go crash the glass, and 3 guys run at him. Somebody else slip in and get an offensive rebound.
Allowing nobody to punk him, this series saw Loon Dog rack up 3 games of posting at least 20 rebounds, and Kavon had at least 7 offensive rebounds in each of those outings, and at most in Game 7, this man had a staggering 10 offensive boards. For reference, the Kings as an entire 15-man unit had just 4 more than that in Game 7 with 14 O boards. In overall rebounding throughout these playoffs thus far, Loon Dog ranks number 1 among all players by a significant amount, and the craziest part about that is, he's all the way down at number 58 in minutes played. Steve Kerr called Looney one of the best centers in the game, and he's right on the money. However, speaking of money, Kavon's contract continues to be the bona fide best bargain across the NBA, as he's just the 39th highest paid center. What really displays the fact that Loon's been the most dominant rebounder in these playoffs on either end is that in rebounds per 36 minutes, the gap between Looney's number 1 ranked 18.1 boards per game and the number 2 ranked Anthony Davis's 13.5 matches the gap between the number 2 ranked AD and the number 14 ranked Jason Tatum. So, Looney was evidently in a class of his own with his valued board getting all throughout the first round, but in addition to Kavon, another top role player in Jordan Poole I thought was specifically valuable in Game 7. JP's often the scapegoat among the Dubs media followers, fans, as well as internally, but I thought he brought an A-plus aura to the table in Game 7, despite not having the best shooting night. Jordan was finding his teammates consistently with solid passing reads, but more notably from Deadpool, his energy was exceptional. He was getting up off the bench and high-fiving his teammates consistently. The immaculate vibes were all around evident from him, and Draymond would note on the pod about the message Poole had for the group in a huddle. Here was Dre's take on that.
I know everybody's going to slander Jordan Poole and been slandering him, but something I always tell Jordan is his attitude and his demeanor. A lot of people follow that on this team. People follow that. And his demeanor tonight was incredible. 71-64, we in a timeout. He come to timeout, he say, hey man, they getting a little tight now. All of a sudden, floaters short, shot short, they getting a little tight, turn the pressure up now. We fed off that energy. It was huge. It was huge. Malik Monk got it going early and he shut the water off.
There's been a ton of criticism that JP's faced, whether from casuals on Twitter, the mainstream media, the Dubs coaching staff, or from his teammates, but it's all about how this kid interprets it, which will determine his fate. Jordan just has to know that all the criticism and tough love is coming from a place of trying to make him better. Nevertheless, like your boy D-Flow, we can't forget this kid's not even 25 and is still navigating his circumstances and figuring out life. I'd like to see Poole re-establish a connection with my fellow Torontonian Andrew Wiggins. The Bag Bros used to seemingly have an open dialogue, but understandably for one reason or another, have lost a bit of their brotherhood. For Poole specifically though, his ability to take criticism will be crucial for the team vibes going forward. I mentioned in my last Dubs video from this channel that he and Draymond can interchangeably be the driving force of either the team's toughness and vibe enhancement, and how JP deals with the tough love will determine whether or not he can provide that. If you're Jordan, you have to take how Steph took criticism from Steve Kerr in this mic'd up clip where he was talking to Curry as an example.
Every timeout, come over here, breathe, get your rest. We got 4 timeouts, so I may take one just to get your rest.
Steph takes advice perfectly, Jordan's got to do the same. Shifting to the next segment, and Ja Morant said he was fine in the West, but the real man who's fine in the West legitimately and historically has been Stephen Kerr. The humble man in charge with a playbook as deep and adaptable as any coach I've personally ever witnessed is amazingly an undefeated 19-0 in Western Conference playoff series. Speaking on the Game 7 W, Kerr would rave about the toughness level and experience of his ball club, with his best message stating, quote, "This is not a one-year flash in the pan. This is a decade they've done it," end quote. However, the biggest Game 7 leader by far was Wardell. After losing Game 6, according to Shams, Steph was so disgusted with how the Warriors played, He couldn't sleep and was texting Draymond at 4 a.m. It led him to give what players called quote-unquote the greatest speech of his career, promising he'd deliver and telling his teammates to quote stay home if they were quote in their emotions before a 50-point Game 7. Steph started the speech by saying, "I don't even talk a lot, but I've got something to say." Wiggs said, "It gave me chills. Number 30, he's different, man." While Draymond said, "He effing got everybody locked in." What was said in this speech, though, was only the second biggest mystery in comparison to this next bit of info. In the first round, according to StatMuse, Steph recorded 34 rebounds, 34 assists, 34 threes, 34 free throws, all while averaging, you guessed it, 34 points per game.
Whoop-de-doo! What does it all mean, Basil?
In his post-game presser, Draymond spoke on Steph's performance in the closeout dub, saying, quote, "We always talk about Game 7 and how big that it is in sports. To see a GOAT leave no doubt, that's absolutely incredible," end quote. That's a big statement from Draymond right there. On a separate note, everyone's trying to read Steph's lips in this clip to interpret whether or not he said, "We're not finished yet," or "They're not ready for this shit." Either way, Steph is locked in. Nevertheless, aside from the Steph plays we looked at yesterday, including some more plays from number 30, these were some of the biggest momentum-shifting sequences which sealed Game 7 for the Dubs. Gary Payton II, aka the Young Glove, would rack up a momentum-shifting 4 blocked shots in this one, 2 of which came in the first quarter, 3 of which came on jump shots, and the nicest of which came on this transition play where, on his back pedal, first he seems to have picked up Fox, then his footwork entails that he's ready to settle for a mere closeout attempt on Keegan Murray, 2 actions which bait Murray into an ill-advised release, which GP2 swats. This type of contested shooting range from Curry in the grill of Terrence Davis is probably a big reason why TD3 respected Steph as much as he did in the postgame.
The greats of all time showed us once again.
Respect to the former Toronto Raptor for admiring Curry's legend status in the aftermath of this one. Here, Steph and Draymond's two-man mastery works to perfection out of a typical beautifully executed handoff action where as Green prepares for the pitch and screen, Steph curls off the pin-in exceptionally, Dre's impactful contact on his pick gets Davis out of the way, and it's a one-dribble pull-up with buttery smooth type range from Chef. For some reason in my last upload, we missed the nicest Chef bucket of the game, where he splits the trap in the backcourt of Fox and Herter, fumbles the ball off his leg, yet runs it down, then in video game-esque fashion, splits another double team, this time of Sabonis and Murray, and the explosion to the hoop tops off the display of how dominant this man's combo of speed and craftiness are. The term wizardry's become overused, but that's about as magical as it gets. Klay Thompson, meanwhile, he had a rough shooting night, however his defense was exceptional and allowed him to be a team-high plus 30, but offensively, Thompson did have several key buckets when it counted heavily in the second half. Weak side back end of the shot clock ISO with the Dubs down 2 in the early third is going to see him tie the game by saucing up Herter with a moving cross between the legs, a hezzy cross in the other direction, a hesitation momentum to get him the first step, and after selling the take, a step back in Kevin's face. After Wiggins gets blocked right here, Klay would make it 5 straight points for himself and put the Dubs up 3 on this wide open triple from the same side of the court. Most important Klay bucket was to seal the third quarter, like he did in Game 5. Draymond sets the strong side pin down, that doesn't make too much contact, but when you're the all-time marksman, that is Klay Thompson, you don't need too much room. In fact, you can even get knocked down to the floor, as he drains the first of 3 of an eventual 4-point play, which put the Dubs up by double digits. Jordan gets one of his 2 triples on the night in a weak side guard-to-guard zooms action right here with Steph. As Poole hands it off to Curry in the empty side corner, Jordan pops to said corner and hops into a fairly contested triple, which he follows through swiftly on. This floppy action with Klay and Moody coming off cross screens on opposite ends is sought out as Fox forces Thompson to pick up the dribble, but the Warriors' improvisation, chemistry, and off-ball movement allows Klay to find Dre, cut back door on Fox, which forces the help of Davis, before Thompson sells the layup and simultaneously finds Payton II for the lay-in. Icing on the cake was this early offense backdoor cut from A. Wiggins, where again, like it's 2K, after Dre finds him with the on-point lob, Air Canada 2.0 catches the lob with one hand for the oop. For a preview on the Dubs series with the Lake Show, be sure to subscribe for that video tomorrow, but just wanted to wrap up the coverage of this all-time great first-round series with Sacramento.